Viene pángalo, dice así. ¿Qué te va a la derecha? Afírmale. Porque ¿cuánto ha logrado? ¿Cuánto ha logrado? Uno, que anda gritando otro, ¿no viste? Hola, comiendo pito aquí con el amigo aquí. Aquí empecé, pero...
New day. Woke up alive again. Woke up sick again. I mean, still. Oh. Not much sleep last night. But there's a house full. We got a house full. Have an early Christmas here. It starts tomorrow morning. Early Christmas for the kids, and they gotta go off somewhere else, so it's chaos in there. This is my escape. In a way, get lots of emails are piling in, man, which is a good thing. Good thing. Once I get more time, I really want to make up some cool fishing videos with all the content that I managed down south. Excuse me, a friend of mine who's got the boats down there, he's partners with a Mexican angler who's been at it all of his life. Hobie is his first name. And this guy, I didn't know it, but he was actually selected by the Mexican government to represent the country in a huge fishing tournament somewhere in the world where all the countries that have, you know, marlin, sailfish, and everything, Dorado, I guess they have a big tournament. And that's how good of an angler this guy, his reputation. So that's pretty cool. I love that. I love watching people that are wicked at their craft. You know, I love it. So anyway, that's who my friend's been fishing with for over 20 years, I believe. And they have the 2 boats together in Cabo San Lucas. But I want to make a video about my trip. The do's, the don'ts, what I learned, what I did, what I videotaped. My head is so plugged up yesterday and today. I don't even know if I shared this yesterday or not, but I got to share this one. We had a bit of an eye-opening going down there, first time down there, and holy cow. Every 20 feet walking along that boardwalk, every 20 feet, I swear, some dirtbag comes up, hey man, you want some cigars, weed, coke? I go, hey, want some coke? Want some coke? I'm like, do I look like I want coke? And then I was kind of sick and I was losing my patience one time, and then I kind of slipped up. But you get fed up, right? Some guy, hey man, you want to buy some coke? And I go, and I started a little aggro. I'm like, do I look like I need coke, you skid bag? And I got angry at him, and then I snapped out of it. It's like, come on, stupid. You're in Mexico, right? You're not at home in your home country. That's kind of odd. But anyway, listen to this one. We get off the plane. And it was a very stressful trip down because we missed because of fog in Seattle. We got absolutely hosed over, orbited around Seattle forever because of the fog, and then ended up having to go to Portland for fuel, flew back. All right, we're out of here. And we ended up landing in Seattle, but we missed our flight. So they were going to send us to Atlanta with an 8-hour layover, or Los Angeles, ended up there. What I'm saying is the travel was crazy. Just had an interruption there. Sarah just let me know that there was 4 dead chickens in the coop with just their heads shredded. That means a mink got in there. Damn it. He's not going to stop till they're all dead. So now I got that unexpected chore to do today. Figure out the tiny hole he's getting in and plug it. Anyway, I shared a travel grief just to explain to you what I'm going to explain to you is we finally got to Mexico, land the airport. We're like, oh my God, we're here. No more stress, no more worries. And when you get outside of the airport at Los Cabos, there's real nice wooden chairs and tables everywhere. A nice little bar restaurant thing right outside. People everywhere. It's like, we're here. Let's just sit down and have an ice cold Corona beer. Right? So I mean, there was no panic anymore. Just sit down, relax, and have a nice cold beer in this nice warm weather. Ordered 2 Coronas. Had those. Like, well, let's have one more. Had one more. And you're expecting it to be like, what, $1.50 or something, couple bucks. And then they came with the bill. $44 US for 4 bottles of frickin' Corona. I was just like, I started laughing. I thought he was kidding. I go, what? You're kidding. What? You're serious? $44 US for 4 bottles of Corona beer. So what does that translate to? Over 60 frickin' dollars Canadian I spent for 4 Corona beer. Are you kidding me? That was my welcome to Mexico. And then it just kept on getting worse from there. I couldn't believe it. Everybody's just trying to get every penny they can out of you in that little town. Anyway, I'll make a video about the whole excursion. I'll put it on my hunting channel because it's going to be about fishing, right? Couldn't believe it. $44. Anyway, there's my rant. Let's get into it. All right, here we go. Who do we got? What do we got? These are recents. This is titled Hunting Camp Encounter in Washington State. It's a familiar name. I know who this is. Hunting Camp Encounter 2017. Steve, I hope you and your family are doing well. I sent this encounter to you very early on, right after you first opened up about the subject, and your own encounter. I may have sent it to the wrong email. I don't think you ever read it on your channel. So I thought I'd resend it, and hopefully it might add another piece to everyone's puzzle. Right on. Oh, I'm sweating. Myself and one of my best friends, Rob, do an annual hunting trip the third week of October every year for early deer season. We take a whole week off of work and set up camp to stay the full week. This is a very remote area in the northeast corner of Washington State in the Selkirk Mountains. We were the only people up there the entire week in 2017. We arrived Saturday to our hunting spot and set up camp, which takes a couple of hours. We use a big canvas hunting tent that we can both stay in, with plenty of room to move around in and store all of our gear. At some point, the first day after we set up, I did a few tree knocks and a call to see if we might get a response. Why? Why do that on a hunting trip? This may sound silly, but I like to start out our trips doing this, as it does sometimes work. My buddy Rob is a skeptic at the time and had no interest in the Sasquatch thing whatsoever, but tolerated me doing it. We got nothing back and went on with our day and didn't give it another thought. We were there to hunt, so that's what we were focused on. As I remember, we went out the first afternoon to hunt for a few hours and then returned back to camp after dark. Nothing happened out of the ordinary the first night. The next day, day 2, we woke up early to get out to a spot to hunt for the day. That day, we returned to camp early afternoon for lunch, and as we turned to head down the dirt path to our camp, we immediately noticed a small tree that was uprooted like a carrot and placed across the path. Rob and I looked at each other, and Rob said, "That wasn't there when we left this morning." And he was right. It wasn't there when we left, and this was very weird to say the least. It happened out of the side-by-side. I hopped out of the side-by-side to walk over and take a look. What we realized right away is that something had carried this tree and placed it there. There was no dirt drag marks like you'd see if someone or something had drug it in there. I picked up the tree, and a bunch of dirt fell off the large root ball, and the small tree was fairly heavy. I thought, this is strange. We proceeded to look around and inspect both tree lines on both sides of the path to see if we could find the source or a hole where it was pulled from. We looked around for 20 to 30 minutes and couldn't find anything. Something or someone carried that tree and placed it there. We took a few photos and carried on with our day. See uprooted tree photos. We decided to set up 2 game cameras in camp to hopefully catch anything that might be messing with us and our camp when we were gone out hunting. We set up one behind our tent and one in the middle of our campsite, facing our camp table. I'll come back to the cameras later. We headed back out to hunt after lunch and again returned after dark. This is when the distant knock started. We hopped out of the vehicle and right away heard a distant knock. Then another that sounded like it came from an opposite direction than the first. Excuse me. This happened once or twice and then stopped. My buddy Rob was scratching his head, wondering what could be making knocks in such a remote area in the mountains. We soon realized that this was some kind of a signal that would happen every night we returned back to camp. Every night for the rest of the week. We started a fire and listened, but didn't hear anything else that second night. Day number 3. We got up early and left camp again to hunt for the day. We were gone all day and returned back to camp after dark. As we turned down the entrance to our camp, we saw the second tree. Another tree was down in camp. We noticed it immediately as we pulled in, this one being around 25 feet tall and very healthy. Rob hit it with his flashlight, and I snapped a couple of photos with my phone. See nighttime tree photos. This tree was big, and it almost hit our camp table. There was no wind all that day. In fact, there was no wind the entire week. We couldn't believe this was happening. It was really hard for us to wrap our heads around it all. At this point, it really started to feel like we were in danger. If a tree that size was pushed over onto our tent at night, it could kill us. We thought about this and talked about the possibility of this happening. As soon as we jumped out of the side-by-side, we heard a knock that sounded closer than the night before, then another from a different location again. It was like they, or whatever it was, were signaling or communicating in some way. A couple more knocks and then it stopped again. Rob and I were really on edge at this point. Finding the trees and then hearing the knocks, both nice. When we arrived back to camp, we made a fire and carried on, fixed some dinner, and eventually went into the tent to go to bed. At some point later that night, Rob woke me up. The knocks had started again and were really loud and sounded very close. This is about 2 or 3 a.m. And this would happen for multiple nights at approximately the same time. We decided we needed to exit the tent to try to see if we could see anything. So we got dressed as fast as we could, grabbed our sidearms, and ran out of the tent in opposite directions. We met with each other on the back side of the tent, scanned the woods with our flashlights. We stood there for a while quietly and just tried to listen. We stayed outside the tent for maybe 15 or 20 minutes looking around camp and talking about what was happening. It was dead quiet. No footfalls, sticks cracking, nothing. We were both very concerned. Eventually we went back in the tent and back to bed. Day 4. We slept in a little the next morning, since we didn't get much sleep the previous night. I remember getting up tired and looking at the big tree that had been pushed over in the middle of our camp. Rob was also up, and he reminded me we had set up one of the game cams in the middle of camp, and that it should have caught the tree going down the previous day. I'll never forget this. He walked over to the tree with the game cam and said, "Nate, get over here. You're not going to believe this." I walked over and he pointed at the game cam, and something had placed a dead moth backwards and slightly squished it over the eye of the camera. This seemed bizarre to both of us. We stood there confused for a few moments, and then Rob flicked the moth off of the camera and started to check it for any photos. The only thing we got were some really dark pictures as if something was covering the lens, but nothing before or after these photos. Unfortunately, that was it. It was as if the camera had malfunctioned before and after. Also in the daylight, we realized the tree was ripped from its roots at the base. I can't even imagine the strength it would take to do this. See daytime photos. A few minutes later that morning, Rob told me that something else had happened during the night after the knocks. I got back to sleep, but he was still awake, lying on his cot, and he said he heard something moving around the tent. He then heard what he said sounded like a stick being dragged all the way around, on and across the tent until it reached his side and went right by his head. He wanted to listen and maybe hear something more, so he said he decided not to wake me up. This is very unsettling for me to hear. Day 5. Day 5. Not too many would even say day 5 after all this, meaning they'd leave. Day 5 was a repeat of day 4. We stayed out all day and returned after dark. Again, another knock from across the field. As we stepped out of the vehicle, it was usually 2 to 3 knocks every time we returned back to camp. Multiple knocks from multiple areas. We were both exhausted and stressed out from lack of sleep at night, and to be honest, I was pretty afraid to go to bed in the tent again that night. It was as if the pressure increased, and it got worse every night. We could feel the pressure intensifying each night. It was clear that whatever this was didn't want us there and was trying to chase us off and get us to leave, and it was working. We finally and reluctantly went to bed that night, anticipating that we were going to get harassed and terrorized again, so we both had trouble going to sleep, even as tired as we were. Again, around 2 or 3 a.m., we were woken up by the knocks. They were disturbing, very loud, and sounded like they were right behind the tent. That would suck. We were scared, but both of us were also angry at this point. Fright turns to anger every time. It's the same emotion, different levels of intensity. Also, if I remember correctly, we were both sleeping with our clothes on to be ready to go out of the tent faster if we had to. We did just that, and again, went in opposite directions around the tent. We stood there again and didn't hear anything. Nothing moving or running away. How in the hell do you explain this? We scanned the forest with our flashlights again, and Rob caught some eye shine across the field that appeared to be fairly tall or high compared to the ground. We both shot our guns in that direction, thinking that maybe we'd scare it off, whatever it was. I'm not sure that was the smartest thing to do, looking back on it, but we were desperate and wanted all to stop. With our adrenaline still high, we stayed up for a while. Eventually went back in the tent and dozed off. At some point after all this, I woke up again and heard something growl right behind my corner of the tent, right behind my head. It was loud, deep, guttural growl. That would really suck. I was terrified. And I laid there for a minute wondering if I had just dreamed this, and then it happened again. This time I woke Rob up, and it happened again 2 more times for a total of 4 growls. Rob heard it too. We rushed out of the tent again and saw or heard nothing. How could this be? How could something be that close to the tent, but it's not there? How could something move away so fast without us hearing it? Whatever this was, it seemed to have special abilities, and it was getting the best of us. We still had 1 more day and night to go on our trip if we were to stick to our original plans. You still thinking about staying? We got up the next morning and checked the other game cam behind the tent, hoping that it had gone off and caught whatever was growling at us. There was a series of photos from that night that had a ghostly-like white mist in them. Nothing else. That was probably breath from something. I've had that on a few game cameras. I had one game camera go off, older one, years back, and it's pitch black. You could just make out the trees down the trail, and then all of a sudden you see a white wisp of mist go by, and then all of a sudden you see just a quick thing, and it was a cougar's ear as he flipped his head. So he was just up, he went through the camera, triggered it, and then he let out an exhale, and his breath went right through the lens, and then he swapped his head, which brought his ear in and out of the lens. Sorry for that little outburst. Then my phone shuts up. All right, sorry. So we discussed everything that had happened that night before, and we felt like we had to make a decision. Are we going to stick it out and spend 1 more night in camp? If we do, what else might happen? How much worse could things get? We both felt like the growls were a big warning. Do you think? Whoa. Well, we decided to call it, spend the last night at a family cabin on a lake around 30 minutes away from our hunting camp. We needed some sleep, and we couldn't deal with it anymore. Before we left that evening, Rob had an idea to leave his lantern on inside the tent on the low setting. We zipped the tent up tight and left for the cabin. When we got back to camp the next morning, Rob called me over to the tent. The zipper of the tent was zipped up and open around 8 to 9 inches. See tent zipper photo. Something was messing with the tent during the night when we were gone. Did you think we were still in there with that lantern on? I guess we'll never know. My buddy Rob was a skeptic, but he's not anymore, and I'll never forget that week at hunting camp in 2017. Thanks, Steve. Keep on sharing the truth from the good, honest people. I've attached some photos we took that week that validate our encounter. Hope to talk soon. Nate Rudd, Spokane, Washington. Thanks, Nate. Crazy I didn't get your email, huh? Who knows what happened? Maybe it might be in there. Who knows? There's freaking thousands of emails in my inbox, right? Not too many people have stuck around after the first hints, right? If you are or previous were familiar with what's really going on out there in the real world. Now I'm going to have to crack open my inbox to find the photos because I don't have them attached here. And I think probably by now, though, right, listen to the people, and knowing what we know, they knew you weren't in the tent. For 110% sure they knew you weren't in the tent. How many emails have we had from people expressing that whatever it was stopped outside the tent right by their head? Almost every single person has shared the fact that these beings knew exactly where their head was on the inside of the tent from the outside and poked in at them, right? God, that would suck. That would suck. Your story reminds me of when I went elk hunting by myself a few years ago. I was really frustrated. I went to this place that's hunted a lot, and I missed an elk. After hunting the crap out of this one bull, blew it, got impatient, I blew it, and then drove all the way home, 2 days. And I never go home with nothing. And I was angry. And I decided to turn around and go right back up there by myself again. And I didn't see any other humans. And then made my camp in the willow. And that was right at the same place where my buddy heard the knocks when we split up. And I went to go get the quad and I didn't hear nothing. And then I had a trail camera about 8 feet up a cottonwood tree. And something spun the trail camera to face the other tree beside it that was that far away. What else? We found all the broken off branches. All the baby poplars. Found all those. And then probably while I was in my tent alone, no rain, cold, clear, I think I heard at least 6, possibly 8 trees go down just across the creek from me, sporadically, every time I woke up. And every time I woke up, I'd hear a grouse drumming. I've never heard a grouse drumming at nighttime in my life. Anyway, your story brought me back to that memory. Okay, who's next? Here we go. More truth. Big clunker airport readers. I'll destroy them soon enough, I'm quite sure. What the truck driver recorded and sent to you. Hey Steve, feel free to use my name. Louis DeVries. I watched the video of some vocalizations recorded by a truck driver and sent to you. I've got to tell you that those recorded screams were very close to the screams my son and I heard that I explained in an email to you back on June 2nd, 2022. The paragraph below. Hi Steve, my name is Louis, DeVries. Louis DeVries. Feel free to use my name. I thought you and your listeners might find this event interesting. It is near the end of deer season 2019/2020 here in South Texas. My son Ryan and I were taking advantage of the last opportunity of the last weekend of the season. My lease was about a 20-mile drive east of Livingston, Texas. After turning off the highway, the road went past a couple of scattered houses, then onto logging roads. The entrance to my portion of the lease led up a slow rise about 500 yards to a box blind that I used. Then, about another 300 yards on past that blind, and down the hill and across a dry creek bed, and up the rise on the other side to where my son hunted from a tripod stand. In this area, at that time, these woods were very dense and difficult to see any deer except those that might walk across a sendero. As we were about to lose shooting light, there was an extremely loud and howl that came from the woods to the right of the tripod where my son was. It lasted about 5 seconds. Then after about another 3 to 4 seconds, another howl, but shorter. I swear I could feel it. Ryan called, asked what the hell that was. I said, I don't know, but I think it's time to go. I got out of my blind and waited for him. Up to where I was. He came up the rise with his rifle not shouldered, but at a low ready. Later on, thinking about that howl, I was thinking how it so much sounded exactly like what I've heard from many TV programs, and concluded it must be a hoax. But later, reflecting on what we had just heard, if it was a hoax, someone would have to carry into the woods a PA sound system and power supply that was robust enough to easily be used at an outdoor sports stadium. Now, why would anyone do that late in the afternoon with no idea that someone might be around to hear it or not? So it was either a hoax or it was something else. Thanks for helping expose the truth. Louis, okay, man. Appreciate you. And, oh my God, I'm over this. I'm done with being sick. It's funny, the majority of sounds recordings that you hear online, the majority of them, I find, can be mimicked. You can mimic it, meaning by the duration. But not too many people record what is being described to us, right? I swear I can feel it. It went on for 10, 15 seconds, whatever. We're not getting those recordings sent to us. I don't think. Unless somebody can point me in the direction of one. Don't you agree? I'm not saying there's anything being misled. There's no misleading or hoaxing going on. What I'm saying is the intensity of the description of these screams and howls is something else. Right? Strong pattern there. But not too many people that I know of have caught that intense screaming on recorded it. Although one time I do remember some hikers, some backpackers. I think they were just backpackers, not hunters. There's a video of them standing in the timber, and you could hear something real about the same as what people describe here. So yes, it has been caught before. And we have that other person getting firewood south of Fort McMurray, Alberta. Got that other crazy ass roaring caught on video. So there's a couple times it's been recorded for sure. But the majority of people that record audio, not too common is it to get that intense, crazy ass roaring, vibrate your chest recordings captured, right? Anyway, there you go. More club members inducted into the club of no return without asking to join. No way out of it now. Who's next? All right, here we go. Here's one's titled. This one's titled "Knowledge Shared." Bracket, help the people, end bracket. Hello, Steve. Thank you for what you do and your honesty. I've been researching Saw Bay for just over 20 years. My story is not like other people's. I spent months in the forest alone exploring. There's nothing better in my eyes. One of my first few encounters, I walked through a portal because I suspect I was moving in on a family group. It changed everything. I threw all I knew out the window and decided I would accept what happens to me for what it was and not for what I wanted it to be. Here are my results in a nutshell. They have walked 10 feet in front of me, and I've seen their feet not leave impressions. They can levitate. That's why the tracks end, and they don't leave track everywhere. They can cloak. I've had them standing beside me, completely invisible, and take off running without leaving tracks, but knocking tree limbs out of the way 10 feet in the air. They make you afraid. This is telepathic. They can manipulate your emotions. You should talk to them when they do this. I like to talk about the nightmares. I've had them for a year. They are forcing you to accept them. You have to make peace with them for the nightmares to stop. You can use my name if you want and share my story with the people. Thanks. All right, well, that's kind of vague, Matthew. Kind of vague and nothing in there we don't know already, right? I'm not trying to sound like a dick. I'm just saying there's nothing new in there. And if you have got knowledge that you feel will help us, something significant that went down, give us a detailed version, all right? Let's just excuse me. Your email is just basically a summary of a handful of patterns that we've expressed here via all the people sharing their emails, right? So, give me something solid. Not solid, sorry. I don't mean give me something solid. I mean give me something detailed. If you get a lot of experience with these beings, give me a detailed experience that blew your socks off and changed your world. From beginning to end, the sights, the smells, everything. Every little detail you experienced or remembered. Ooh, this is a long one. All right, here I'm going in. Hairy Humans and Radiation. It's the title of this email. Hello, Steve and How to Hunt folks. You can call me Jake, and I don't care to use my name. Not that I'm afraid. It's just none of the nosy-ass big brother bunches damn business. I like keeping my cards close to the vest, less ammunition a potential enemy has in his or her arsenal. Good point. I've been following your channel for a little more than 2 years now. I stumbled across my now base channel while looking to see if I could find a missing friend on a missing persons list somewhere. Oh, that sucks. It led me to Mr. Dave Pilatus at Missing 411, then to you at How to Hunt, and finally Mr. Scott Carpenter, 75 miles from my hometown of Rockwood, Tennessee. Rest in peace, Mr. Scott. I feel I had found the super team of truth, knowledge, and awakening from the brainwashing inflicted on us at birth. How unbelievably evil the world can continue to become and reveal. Needless to say, I've left the flock and am now a free-roaming ram, no longer in the corral with the sheeple. The only way evil can win is for men and women like us to do nothing. Thank you so much for turning on the lights and allowing the heroes a place to be heard. I don't have an encounter to share, although with the knowledge I have gained from this community and learning what to look for, looking back, I know now that I have been among these people of the wilderness. I've heard something walking while I'm walking, stopping when I stop, and the rumbling in my gut, screaming at me when they're watching me. Now let me get to the knowledge I'd like to share. Recently, you read an email from a member who worked as a radiation protection technician for 30 years who shared some radiation basics with the How to Hunt folks. I also have worked 30 years as a radiation protection / health physics radiation safety technician. Wow. They have several titles that are used in the industry. I'd like to extend on his knowledge that was offered. My experience has mainly been at Department of Energy sites in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I spent most of my career cleaning up the contamination in the environment left over from the Manhattan Project, the effort that produced the atomic bomb. I've heard you read emails that describe encounters with these elusive humans at the DOE facilities in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Just a little history for background purposes. I've been trying to put the puzzle pieces concerning the radiation found along with the evidence / sightings of these people. So, to continue on my colleague's puzzle piece concerning the 4 types of radiation, alpha, beta, gamma, and neutron. Gamma and neutron being the strongest and far-reaching per se. They are the 2 we worry the most about. The way to protect yourself when dealing with radiation is quite simple. Time, distance, and shielding. The time spent around the source, the longer time spent, the greater the dose / exposure, allowing for damage to the body. The more distance you can put between you and the source, the lower the dose / exposure, allowing for damage to the body. Radiation inversely reduces over a distance, becoming less intense / harmful. If you can put something between you and the source to shield you from it, shielding, the lower the dose / exposure, allowing for damage to the body. Shielding actually blocks most, if not all, the radiation. That's why you see the X-ray tech at the hospital put the skirt or vest-like thing on before taking an X-ray. It's made of lead sheathing that shields them from the energy beam. Energy, I feel, is a key puzzle piece concerning these people. They are masters at using energy. There are 2 types of radiation sources, man-made and natural. There are 2 ways that radiation is associated with this race of humans. They are either naturally radioactive or they have somehow become contaminated. Contamination is when radioactive material is an unwanted place. You get the radioactive material on you. Radioactive material is something like uranium, something that is naturally radioactive, or it can be something that has been made radioactive in a reactor by humans. It is my guess at trying to solve my puzzle pieces that these humans have been known to live in caves. Rock and such found in caves or in the ground is a lot of times naturally radioactive. Perhaps they're becoming contaminated with radioactive material during their time spent underground. Or perhaps they are becoming contaminated while traveling through space, time, entering and exiting portals? Or are they radioactive material themselves due to their world or physiological makeup? And everywhere they go, they are leaving behind contamination? We would have to examine one up close, taking samples and measurements to make the determination of where this puzzle piece connects an overall puzzle. Perhaps, Steve, we make this the challenge instead of harvesting them for canned meat in the thrill of the hunt. I have a feeling it'd be way more traitorous to gain the excitement we get from our hunting than to go after these types of adventures. So I hope this helps add another piece to our growing puzzle. Stay safe and strong, Steve, and same to this How to Hunt community. And most of all, stand fast for our freedom. We need it now more than ever. Godspeed. All right. Appreciate you coming forward with your knowledge, man. Absolutely appreciate that. I love it when people with direct knowledge and topics we cover come forward, right? Excuse me. Now on the one thing that was shared, I believe, in the conversation between me and Dr. Melvin Ketchum, on the video that is still available in the members section. Oh my God, my eyes are burning in my head. The word on the street is fact that the government has had 5 bodies. 4 dead, 1 live. This is back in the 1950s. And the journals and all of that information is in the possession of somebody we know. Most of them. And the whistleblower in his deathbed who obtained all this knowledge firsthand and spoke with our contact also died from cancers. I think it was from radiation-related cancers. And that went on to, also, that conversation went on directly to, flipped over to some First Nations people that knew where there was the bodies of a handful of these people buried, and to not go near there, and also cautioned that if you do come across, this is from the Native people, this one particular community, if they do come across a corpse, to stay away unless you've got proper protective clothing. It's all I've heard, it's all I know. I'm just the messenger, and I'm gonna, whatever I hear I pass on to you guys, right? Because I'm not the judge for anybody. I'm not the one that dictates to you what you should take as truth or not. Right? Is that hard? Isn't it funny how hard that is for your average human to wrap their brain around that? Isn't that weird? It's such a bizarre thing, but I think it doesn't seem bizarre until you finally truly break free of the herded program. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there who lash out at me, have lashed out because you just read anybody's story. You're not even vetting them. So what they're directly telling me is although they don't know who I am, have never met me, if I come back online on the same YouTube channel and say I completely vetted this person, then it's a green light for them to accept it. Did I deliver that smoothly? Do you see the insanity in that? A stranger will listen to you and go, you didn't even vet that person. Okay, well, give me 10 minutes. You know, or whatever. I'll come back the next day. Okay, just so you know, I completely vetted that person. Here's the story again. And that same human being that's watching me through the lens doesn't know my ass from anywhere. Well, then their brain will accept it. That I vetted somebody, and then it's okay. Am I making sense? Probably not. Anyway, people are funny creatures, man. You give them their freedom, and it's tough for them to take it. It's funny. It's frustrating to watch, but it backs up a lot of my conclusions that I'm coming to about us being programmed, right? About us being programmed. So many people that have lashed out at me for sharing every single email. What they are doing is directly screaming out that they need somebody put in authority, somebody up here to tell them what's up. We can't just listen to everybody. Okay? We can't just listen to everybody. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? All right, I'm babbling. My brain's not meshed up my lips. I know it's not. I'm struggling. I'll admit it, I'm struggling. I'm even sweating right now. I hate being sick. Hate it. People need to accept the fact that you can think for yourself. You can decide what's factual or not. You already know the answers. It's inside you. You just got to stop arguing with yourself and fighting with yourself and accept it and get in tune with yourself. And then you're going to climb real high, real fast. As soon as you can master that, break free of being programmed to think that you need a human being to tell you. Okay? Quit it. Break free. Lose the mainstream news. Shut the TV off. Get rid of cable. Think for yourself. Think for yourself. Take Take from it what you need or leave it. You know? Anyway. Babbling. That's a message that's been sent here for years. All right, I'll shut up. Who do we got? What do we got? All right, this is titled 2023 Activity. Excuse me. Hello, Steve. From incidents spanning the last 15 years, I thought I might be clear of Sasquatch or other cryptid encounters in the woods. I've adjusted my hunting area and strategy to consider staying out of situations that might lead to me bumping into these creatures. Yeah, I've done that too, to a point. However, it happened again. In September this year, I was hunting Saddle Mountain here in Oregon off of McGregor Road near Highway 26. The area I hunt is a fresh clear cut up the hill from the rest stop off Highway 26. Dude, you just shared your hunting spot. On opening day of 2023 archery season, my friend and I got into elk. The herd was just above this fresh clear cut. We looked at our map app and realized there was an old decommissioned road near the elk. We made our way down this overgrown road and found a fresh rub in a tree. Within 10 seconds of finding this, the elk spooked out of the trees approximately 10 yards in from us. We decided to head in and look for signs of bedding/trails. Potentially, this area could be an area for us to focus my future efforts. My buddy went down a game trail, and I cut straight into the dog hair to see where these elk were standing. I found sign and worked my way around to where my buddy was searching. I didn't see him. Decided to move further in. I came to a bench above this big draw and took some pictures. It was a nice spot. I then started thinking back to 2021 when I had a trail camera in the bottom of this draw where I had 2 weird captures. I felt panicked and began hurrying my way back to the road to meet up with my friend. Seriously, this fear came out of nowhere. I made it to the road and felt like I needed to take some pictures of this fresh rub on the tree. I returned home and reviewed the pictures because it really bothered me that I was freaked out for no apparent reason. I zoomed into the picture of the fresh rub and found an anomaly in the background where I'd climbed up the hill to get on the road. I attached the zoomed in picture to this email. But I can clearly see reddish hair and potentially a face in the bush. It reminded me of images Scott Carpenter would share. I went back in there a week later and decided to hunt 8 miles up McGregor in another cut. On my way to that spot, I had a weird little pug-sized deer run up an old skid trail. That was weird. I hunted the cut for a couple hours before I decided to head back down McGregor to the highway. It was eating away at me that I was so spooked to hunt that clear cut from a week earlier. So I decided to do a quick hunt in there before returning home. From the gate to the cut is 100 yards of tight trees along the road before it opens up. I hiked in and spent some time in the middle of the cut. When I decided to head back to my rig, I noticed the atmosphere of the day had changed. All the birds and squirrels shut up. It was strangely darker. I pulled my sidearm, having been through this before, and started praying. I forced myself to push through the crushing terror and made my way back up the road toward those tight trees along the road on my way to my vehicle. I should mention the bottom of that big draw where I had the weird trail cam captures in 2021 is where I entered the clear cut. So I walked along the road, praying and approaching the tight trees / low end of the creepy draw when I started to hear the birds and squirrels start up again. The darkness lifted and I felt strangely comforted. I made it to the rig. A major conclusion I've come to after my interactions with the Sasquatch. They are weird. When they are near you, you are brought into their bubble. Maybe it's infrasound. That's why all the critters are quiet. I think the squirrels and birds are still making noise. You just can't hear them anymore. Appreciate what you do, Steve. The woods are getting stranger, and it's not slowing down. Sincerely, Nick Marlowe. Okay, Nick? There is the photo. 2 photos. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know what? For me, Like I always say, I'm not being a dick. I'm just saying, you're my friend. You're all my friends at the same coffee table, and somebody's passed me over the picture, and I'm looking, I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to zoom in on that, and I do not see where the hair word comes in. That's just me. I don't see hair anywhere. I see the potential color of red hair. That's about it for me. That's the shitty thing about photos, right? But sometimes maybe I just suck ass, right? Maybe I just cannot see shit, and other people can. That's a strong possibility too, right? Right? I mean, obviously there is a lot of people that see these beings. They see things plain as day, right there in the backyard, Daddy. Meanwhile, Mom and Dad can't see shit. It's right there. He's looking at us, you know, as an example. Maybe it's the same with photos. I don't know. Anyway, there we go. There we go. Now, I gotta get my ass in gear because I have a full day. Well, a somewhat full day. And, but now I just got this chicken coop. It's just the top of the walls in the coop are slightly open along the sheet metal roof comes down. So now I gotta try to figure out what I'm gonna plug those holes with. And I gotta get that done today. Damn it, or all the chickens are gonna be roasted by the morning tomorrow. And I have a bunch of other stuff I gotta do, so I better get going. And I have so many things I want to do here. But they're just going to have to wait, as usual. The one-man team, right? The Sean Ryan podcast, he's got a team of 5 people. 5 people. Nino, he's got a handful of people doing shit for him. I do everything by myself. Every single thing. Obviously, I don't mind it. I like doing it. I as well like doing it because one of my fuels, you already know this, but a major fuel for me is people that have tried to stop us. That's all the fuel I need. That's all I need. Somebody trying to stop us, and I guarantees that this is going to surge forward, right? Guarantees. I made it my mission to make sure that what we do here will dominate and overrun anyone else out there that's attempting to stop us while doing somewhat the same thing. It's funny on that note, another funny one. Sarah pointed out to me last evening. Somebody made a comment somewhere. How did it go? It went, somebody said they noticed that, she showed me the comment. How did it go? Somebody noticed that a lot of the other channels that usually promoted this channel are now against this channel. And she said that, I looked at her and I went, there's other channels?